All right, y'all. So we back with another interesting discovery video. We headed back to Africa on this one. All right. So this is 15 unsettling discoveries in Africa nobody can explain. All right. So if you're new, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Join the fam. Let's learn something.
Africa is a continent with a lot of wealth. Most often, countries in this place are misunderstood. But Africa has been a beautiful and rich land since the dawn of mankind. Archaeological evidence shows that humans and our hominid forebears have occupied the continent for about 4 million years.
Wow.
We still haven't discovered all there is to know about the continent, but we're uncovering its secrets one by one. Let's explore and look at the strange and amazing finds in Africa. From mysterious elephant deaths to strange cave art, here are 15 unsettling discoveries in Africa nobody can explain. Number 15. Mysterious elephant deaths. African elephants are the largest land animals on Earth. These gentle giants are considered keystone species, making them incredibly important in the ecosystem they're involved in. Without them, the African savannas wouldn't be complete. Botswana is one of the African countries that is home to more than 130,000 elephants, and their population continues to rise each year. But in the summer of 2020, the authorities of Botswana were plagued with bad news as reports of elephant carcasses bombarded them. More than 300 elephants were found dead in the Okavango Delta in a span of several months, and their cause of death was a mystery. Officials initially believed that poachers were behind the mysterious sudden elephant deaths. After all, they have
That just ain't normal.
been largely responsible for the dangerously decreasing elephant population across Africa. The animal carcasses that the officials found bore no wounds or injuries. All ages, both male and female elephants were found dead across the delta.
And see what's making me nervous is seeing these people walking around. They don't know if it's whatever is killing them is in the air. You know what I mean? I see them walking around, no type of breathing apparatus on or anything like that. Yeah, that makes me nervous.
It was a harrowing year, and none of the locals could fathom how people could do something so sinister. However, it turned out that the initial suspicion of the authorities wasn't true. After extensive observation and study, the officials claimed that the cause of the multiple elephant deaths was poisoning. That year, blooms of blue-green algae, or cyanobacteria, invaded the seasonal pools of water used by the animals to drink. Most of the elephants were found near waterholes, with their ivory tusks still intact. Aside from elephants, no other animals were affected by the year's algal blooms. Cyanobacteria, if ingested in high doses, can interfere with an animal's nervous system, causing even a giant animal like an elephant to collapse and die. Fortunately, volunteers and workers involved in elephant conservation projects swiftly took action to prevent more elephants from dying that year. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. Ancient riches discovered at mysterious burial. Lothegem North Pillar Site is a place of archaeological significance. It's located in the northwest region of Kenya, near the shores of Lake Turkana. The North Pillar Site is nestled between two ridges of dark volcanic rock, lined with rocks to distinguish it from the rest of the site. This mysterious site was built by the earliest settlers of Eastern Africa, between 5,000 and 4,300 years ago. The entire site consists of a 7,500 square foot burial mound, and it took archaeologists years to excavate the entire area completely. None of them expected the treasure trove they found during the excavation. Pottery, jewelry, vessels, artifacts, countless riches were buried in the North Pillar site. From beautiful stones, ivory rings, and headdresses made of tusks and teeth, each individual in the
I don't understand why they're surprised. A lot of ancient civilizations did that. Buried their loved ones and different ones like that, and depending on their ranks and if they ruled or whatever, they were buried with jewels and animals and all kinds of different things.
Burial was adorned with precious jewelry. Further digging revealed the significance of the site for the early settlers of Africa. The entire burial mound was the final resting place of more than 580 individuals of all ages and gender. The ancient site differed from other burials constructed during the same period because of its complexity. At first glance, the mound looked ordinary, but excavations showed that there was a master plan for the entire site. The settlers thousands of years ago decided not to use the burial cavity to its maximum capacity. Although it could still hold more corpses, the people decided to fill it with soil instead. Each generation did the same thing. It was a practice not commonly seen. Usually, people at the time simply dug and buried bodies almost haphazardly. Number 13. Bocconi Ruins. In the modern town of Mahadadorp in South Africa lie several mysterious ruins left behind by the Bocconi people. These enigmatic structures consist of stone walls, settlements, and roads. They're often found in fields, suggesting that whoever built them were people who worked in agriculture. Initially, the early settlers of Africa were portrayed as people who had rudimentary lifestyles. They were thought of as hunter-gatherers, but these ruins suggest that they were far more advanced than most people believed. Before European colonists arrived in Africa, the Bocconi people built agricultural structures to help them manage livestock. There's also evidence of them using other innovations such as crop rotation and more. These swirling, winding ruins show that the early settlers of Africa were more than what they were described as by early invaders. However, much about the Bocconi people remains a mystery. To this day, the origin of these people is highly debated. Some people believe that the Bocconi were descendants of the Dravidian peoples who came from ancient India, while some believe they were groups who migrated from the Kung and Indus basin. Some believe that the Bocconi ruins were of Sumerian origin. Unfortunately, the answer to this question may be lost to us forever. The Bocconi ruins weren't exactly unknown to the locals living near the area, but there wasn't an urge for them to protect the ruins. The Bocconi ruins were exposed to the natural environment for years, and the structures show signs of neglect due to erosion and time. Number 12. Hexagonal Diamond.
Whoa.
Africa is a land blessed with natural resources, but the most intriguing one as of recently is a hexagonal diamond created in space. These precious gemstones are not like ordinary diamonds found in jewelry. Known as Lonsdaleite, the rare space diamonds came from a dwarf planet 4.5 billion years ago. It formed in the planet's mantle, but after a massive asteroid smashed it, the valuable chunk of meteorite was sent flying towards our way until it ended up on our planet. Diamonds are the hardest naturally occurring substance found on Earth, but Lonsdaleite is much harder, or at least that's what researchers believe. You see, as much as we would
Like, we just banging on it and stuff like that. The sheer disrespect, man. Are you serious?
like to study and
Like, I get they trying to research it and everything like that, man. But I don't think I could have done it. I would have had to hand it to somebody else to do that right there, that part.
the hardest naturally occurring substance found on Earth, but Lonsdaleite is much harder, or at least that's what researchers believe. You see, as much as we would like to study and experiment on this rare space gemstone, we simply can't because of how little samples are available. But of course, modern scientists found a solution to address this dilemma. Using the small specks of hexagonal diamonds from outer space, researchers began developing a way to replicate it. Unfortunately, it will be long before we see hexagonal diamonds as jewelry stones. Number 11. Oldest African Dinosaur. This small yet ferocious creature is a dinosaur that lived in Africa 230 million years ago, the Ambirosaurus rothi. The fossil of this dinosaur was discovered by a team of experts working on the Pebbly Arkose Formation in northern Zimbabwe after 5 years of excavations and hard work. The dinosaur skeleton was nearly complete, which astonished the team of scientists. However, the well-preserved skeleton wasn't the only thing that made the discovery special. M. rothi was about 6 feet long and stood at around 1.5 feet tall. The creature wasn't incredibly small, but if you compare it to other dinosaurs at the time, it would be considered tiny.
That's
the
very
sauropod
small.
known as Patagotitan, which lived around the same time as M. rothi, was a massive creature that measured up to 122 feet long. Compared to this titan, this tiny dinosaur is considered a dwarf. This small creature lived along the banks of an ancient river in what is now known as the country of Zimbabwe. That was between 252 million to 201 million years ago, during the Triassic period. At the time, our planet wasn't how it is today. Instead of 7 continents, there was a single giant landmass known as Pangaea. This means that Zimbabwe was almost directly connected to Brazil. For so long, scientists also wondered why dinosaurs and other creatures who lived back then didn't cross continents. After all, the entire landmass on the planet was connected.
That is a good question. You know what I mean? That is a good question. I've never heard anybody discuss that before either, about them like migrating to another area. It's just like once they found their area, They either dominated and stayed there until they just died.
Thanks to the clues in Africa,
Or at least that's just the way it's been made out to seem.
researchers realized that the answer was simple. Although every single continent was connected with each other, they were still far apart, and each region differed in climate and conditions. Several
makes
creatures,
sense, too.
including
Climate.
Emrathi, could only survive in the environment of Zimbabwe, and logically chose to remain there. Number 10. Stone Circles of Senegambia. With stones weighing up to 7 tons each, the Senegambian Stone Circle is an impressive monument. It consists of more than 1,000 stones spread over an area that is about 100 kilometers wide and 350 kilometers in length. Each stone was carried and erected by people hundreds of years ago, without using modern machinery or tools. 93 of these stones are included on UNESCO's World Heritage List because of how incredible they are. What makes the Stone Circle impressive is that it was built due to a tradition passed down from generation to generation. One generation began erecting massive rocks and forming circles, and as a new one stepped up and replaced the old ones, new stone circles were built. This practice was impressively upheld for almost 2 millennia. Number 9. Africa's Baobab Trees. In the book The Little Prince, written by author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, Baobab trees are giant plants that cause destruction to a planet. Most people who have read this book think that these trees aren't real, but there is a tree in Africa who shares the same name, and recently they began dying mysteriously with no clear cause. African baobab tree is the oldest living flowering plant found in the tropical regions of the continent. All trees are known for having long lives. They can live for decades and even centuries, but the baobab can last for more than 2 millennia. A single baobab can yield up to 500 cubic meters of wood. And
I was just about to say that one doesn't look that old. I've seen some very old trees. That one didn't look old, but I was wrong. Y'all hear how long it said it could live?
they can live for decades and even centuries. But the baobab can last for more than 2 millennia. A single baobab can yield up to 500 cubic meters of wood, and their appearance makes them look like they're a fictional creation. The baobab trees weren't used for much, but they held incredible significance. And so, when the trees began dying one by one, researchers immediately tried to resolve the problem. They sealed the trees to prevent infection, but it was no use. The baobab trees died with no apparent cause. There were no signs of epidemic or disease, but the oldest and largest baobabs withered one by one. Some believe that the changing climate was to blame for the deaths, but more research needs to be done to confirm this suspicion. Number 8. Stone Circle at Mzura. Just like Stonehenge in Europe, Africa also has its own share of stone circles. This includes the Stone Circle at Mzura. A megalithic stone circle located in the northern region of Morocco proved that stone circles and megaliths aren't exclusive to the continent of Europe. Known as the Mzura Stone Circle, the locals took it upon themselves to protect the site. According to them, the monoliths proved that the early settlers of Africa were similar to the people in Europe. Today, the Mzura Stone Circle consists of 168 stones, several stones less than the 175 original ones. The tallest among the monoliths is known as Eluted, or the pointer in the local language. It's a huge 16-foot tall monolith spread across a 180-foot diameter. Just like European stone circles, several experts believe that the Moroccan monoliths were used for rituals or as a site to gather. However, some experts theorize that that wasn't the purpose of the Mzura Stone Circle at all. Several claim that at the center of the circle was the tomb of a legendary giant named Antaeus. He was allegedly defeated by the heroic demigod Hercules, as one of his labors imposed on him by the god Apollo. The source of this claim was the writing of a Roman general named Quintus Sertorius, who wrote in the 1st century AD that a body of a man that was 85 feet long was unearthed from the site. He claimed that the terrified locals immediately reburied the giant's body once again. Unfortunately for
do you blame them? I'd have did the same thing.
modern archaeologists, there's no trace of this alleged giant. Although there are no giant bones, the monument itself is a significant site. The identity of the people responsible for building it is still unknown, but archaeologists believe that it was the shared labor of 2 regions who worked together. Quite an unusual practice, especially hundreds of years ago. Number 7. The Sky Stone. With an incredibly vibrant blue hue, the sky stone has no problem attracting attention wherever it goes. This gemstone is out of this world. This beautiful gemstone is made out of pure oxygen, and it wasn't made on our planet. Instead, this rare gemstone formed in outer space. The beautiful sky stone was discovered in 1990 by Angelo Bocconi while exploring in Sierra Leone, West Africa. Carbon dating revealed that the stone arrived on our planet between 2,500 and 17,000 years ago, but the exact age of the stone can't be determined. Regardless of its age, the composition of the sky stone alone was enough to earn it a spot among Africa's most beautiful and precious gems. Number 6. Beast that lived with the dinosaurs. Africa is home to an extensive number of wildlife, but it's not always that archaeologists discover an animal that lived millions of years ago. This creature, known as Adelatherium huai, or literally crazy beast, lived during the late Cretaceous period between 72 and 66 million years ago. Back then, our planet had a large landmass, or supercontinent, known as Gondwana. Little is known about this creature. Skulls of this extinct species were found before, but researchers couldn't properly illustrate its image due to the lack of body skeleton. Thanks to the discovery, experts were able to create a fossil record for this intriguing animal. Unlike most animals existing during the period, the crazy beast had a primitive bone in its snout, a feature that disappeared from other creatures living in the same period. Its teeth are also backward, contrary to what researchers were expecting. Its skull also had more openings, which suggested that the animal had more sensitivity than others of its kind. It weighed 6.8 pounds and most likely looked like an ancient possum. When researchers examined the leg bones of the animal, they found out that it was strangely aligned and slightly bowed. The crazy beast may be nothing but an animal, but for researchers, Adelatherium huai is a key to a larger scale. Unfortunately,
it definitely does. Now that he say it resemble a possum. You know what I mean? You ever seen a possum in your backyard? If it's at nighttime, it ain't the best experience. It ain't the best experience, man.
Researchers, Adelatherium huai is a key to a larger scale.
He looked like a possum.
Unfortunately for us, it might take a while before we can finally discover the secrets of this elusive dinosaur. Number 5. Python worship. Would you ever worship a snake? Why? Or why not? Most of you, especially those who are especially afraid of snakes, will probably say no. But if there are exotic pet lovers out there, then they'll most likely say yes. If you're among those people, fret not, because that doesn't make you a weird one. After all, more than 40,000 years ago, our predecessors literally praised and worshipped a snake. In modern Botswana is a place where a snake-shaped rock resides. It's surrounded with 70,000-year-old spears, and none of the archaeologists could explain where the head spears were from. However, they found out something more intriguing when observing the site. 70,000 years ago, a group of people worshipped and performed rituals to this snake-shaped structure. This ritual predates the earliest known practice seen in Europe by almost 40,000 years. For tens of thousands of years, a group of people visited the snake-like stone and carried out their ritual involving spearheads. What for? That we don't know. Number 4. Skeleton Coast. Just as macabre and horrifying as its name, the Skeleton Coast in Namibia has a terrifying reputation. It's a land of nothingness, and it's a place known to many as the end of the earth. With sand dunes towering 300 feet behind the shore, the Skeleton Coast looks more like a mirage, especially for those who traverse the scorching desert. Most of Africa is bustling with...
They had houses? Who would live in a place called the Skeleton Coast? It sounds like where everything and everyone goes to die.
Especially for those who traverse the scorching desert. Most of Africa is bustling with wildlife and human activity, but here, there is no trace of human life. Animal skeletons can be found in the area, showing how brutal its environment is. Elephants sometimes visit the waters near the coast, and sharks circle around the area, but it's usually devoid of life. But near the empty, treacherous waters, half buried in the sand, are several shipwrecks that somehow ended up in the inhospitable environment. One of the most well-known shipwrecks, and perhaps the eeriest among those in the Skeleton Coast, is the Otavi. Rusted, but with a relatively intact skeleton, this wreck remains mostly buried in the Namibian sand. In 1945, Otabi was carrying guano when the ship suddenly encountered an accident, causing it to run aground. The skeleton coast will be...
Isn't guano like bat droppings or something like that? Is guano? Hey Siri. What's guano?
Guano is the accumulated excrement of seabirds or bats.
I thought so.
Manure,
Yeah, like
guano is a
bat droppings. I thought so. Why was it carrying bat droppings?
the ship's graveyard, as salt eats away at its ironwork. In the future, there will come a time when only bits and pieces of the Otabi will remain. Number 3. Mysterious metal monolith. It isn't unusual for people to be wary about anything strange to them. After all, there is a chance that it might be dangerous. That's probably the reason why hundreds of people chose to destroy a mysterious metal monolith that appeared in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2021. The metal monolith looked like a large block that measured 12 feet tall. According to the people, it appeared in the middle of the town out of nowhere, which garnered intrigue and fear. Some locals thought that it would be wise to take a picture of the monolith or take a selfie with it in the background, but some didn't like that arrangement. Rather than taking a photo, some people's instincts told them to destroy the silver pillar, under the impression that the monolith was alienware or a dangerous object brought in by the government. A massive crowd surrounded the monolith. It was trashed, cut, ruined, and even burned. However, those who hoped to see something sinister inside the metal monolith were extremely disappointed. You see, the metal monoliths weren't only seen in Africa, but other places as well. A group of artists were especially known for this kind of act, and so they became the first suspects. But it was unclear whether it was them who was responsible. Number 2. Mysterious Nubian stone tablets. Archaeologists working in the ancient city of the dead in Africa recovered the largest collection of texts written in a mysterious language called the Kushites. The artifacts were recovered from a site known as Sedinga in Sudan. Most of the artifacts came from a temple built for Egyptian Queen T, the grandmother of King Tutankhamun in the 14th century. Although a temple was built in the area in honor of the queen, the site is known as the City of the Dead. Most of the tablets recovered were made to commemorate the deceased. The designs and statues in the area also portrayed burial rituals, which led it to be considered a major necropolis between the 7th century BCE and the 4th century CE. The necropolis was built by two kingdoms, Napata and Meroe. Together, the two nations are known as Kush, especially to the people of ancient Egypt. We know nothing about the Kush people, but the necropolis they left behind was enough to tell researchers how successful they were. Overall, the ruins contained at least 80 brick pyramids and no less than 100 tombs. Tombs, monuments, steles, and tablets were the most captivating things in the site. After all, they mostly had engravings of text written in Meroitic, the oldest writing system in the sub-Saharan region. Unfortunately, we still haven't decoded the entire language just yet, but thanks to several scholars, we're able to know the meaning of some of the texts. The illustrations engraved on the tablets also helped decode some lines. It turned out that unlike the ancient Egyptians and most civilizations at the time, women were held in very high esteem. Instead of men, the only tablets talking about something else other than the deaths had a passage about a powerful woman. Number 1.
Makes sense.
Mysterious cave art. In a remote location near the borders of Egypt, Libya, and Sudan, a few miles away from the nearby houses, is a sandstone plateau known as Gilf Kabir. It lies in the most harrowing regions of North Africa, with temperatures reaching up to a scorching 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This area is not only among the hottest, but also the driest parts of the planet. This area receives little to no rainfall. It would be lucky for Gilf Kabir to receive rain twice in 20 years. However, the unforgivable conditions of this place isn't what makes it special or known. Gilf Kabir has been one of the most intriguing archaeological sites ever since its discovery. It may be an uninhabitable place with a perilous climate today, but during the Neolithic period, our predecessors roamed its land. Perhaps the most intriguing part of this plateau is the collection of prehistoric cave paintings. One cave stood out from the rest, the Cave of Beasts. It's breathtaking to see a long cave wall covered with hundreds of human handprints. Illustrations of giraffes, elephants, gazelles, ostriches, and other beasts can also be seen near the hands. What's strange, however, is the fact that the cave painting seems to have a horrific theme. The beasts are often portrayed in the middle of swallowing a human, or in the process of spitting one up. Researchers are also puzzled by the adult hands stenciled near the beast illustrations. Why were they done in the first place? And why are there tiny hands mixed among them?
Right.
Initially, the smaller handprints were thought to belong to young children at the time, but according to researchers, this can't be the case. The hands look like a human's at first glance, but the shape of their fingers don't match ours at the tips. Instead, it looks like claws are extending from the tiny palms. It turns out that among the adult human handprints are smaller ones that don't belong to humans. And so, the hunt for this mysterious cave artist began. To this day, we're still unsure as to who or what really created the handprints. But there are several theories. Some people claim that aliens are the ones responsible for stamping the small handprints, while some choose to believe a simpler explanation. Several believe that lizards are the ones who left behind the small childlike markings. We don't know why it was carried out in the first place, and until we learn more about the site, questions about this Neolithic cave art will remain unanswered. Have you ever visited a country in Africa before? If so, how did your experience go? Make sure to share it in the comments down below.
Videos like these make me and increases my want to go even more. Like, I really want to go. Like I said, this is definitely on my bucket list. And as far as those handprints go, I don't think those are aliens. I more so think that it's different from ours because of the things that they had to do, and their hands probably adjusted to that, as well as their feet. Like, think about it. If you climb trees all your life, your feet probably curve in a certain way. Or if you know what I mean? You do different things. So our hands are going to differ from them in a way. That's just my thoughts behind it. But it could as well be a lizard, though. Maybe. Aliens, I'm not thinking that, though. But who knows? Y'all get at me in the comment section, though, and let me know what you thought of this video, though. Did you learn something? I did. Stick around and stay tuned. Till next one, I'm gone. Peace.